Coming up on Motor Driven this week, VW complete their SUV lineup with the T-ROC, which was launched last week. We take a quick look. It's a classic case of rebadging as Toyota introduces the Starlet to the South African market. And we try and make head or tail of AARTO and the regulations. Well, it's a pretty interesting and probably controversial show coming up on Motor Driven this week. Thank you so much for joining us. I do suggest you get yourself buckled up. But let's ease into this week with the motoring news that really caught our attention. Volkswagen have completed their T-SUV range here in South Africa with the local launch of their T-ROC. Its fresh, uncluttered modern design certainly does grab your attention, while the digitally dominated interior, well, it's essential for today's tech-savvy, connectivity-driven consumer. They've also ramped up personalization with 2 trim levels, the visually focused design or the sporty-orientated R-line. Now, in terms of size, the T-ROC slots in between the T-Cross and the Tiguan. So essentially, you've got a Golf that is sitting just a little bit higher off the ground and has a bigger boot. And judging from initial reports, it drives like a Golf 2, which is really not a bad thing at all. The T-ROC is offered here in South Africa with 2 engines, a 1.4-litre 4-cylinder turbo that is linked to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and this produces 110 kilowatts and 250 newton meters. Or you get the 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo that is driving all 4 wheels via a 7-speed DSG transmission, and here it produces 140 kilowatts and 320 newton meters. Pricing is going to start just under 490,000 Rand with the top spec 4Motion R-Line, setting you back nearly 600,000 Rand. In a COVID-affected National Rally Championship, Guy Botterill and Simon Vacy-Lyle clinched yet another South African National Rally title, their 4th in a row at the Mpumalanga double header. Wrapping up the championship in round 5, they then went on to win round 6, maintaining their unbeaten record and making it a clean sweep in 2020. Nicely done, chaps. Or is that champs? It's uncertain times in the motorsport world and things are changing super fast. Volkswagen have announced now that they are withdrawing from all factory motorsport programs, and just last week we caught up with Sheldon van der Linde and we're discussing the possibility of a future move for him to Formula E. Only this week to get the news that, well, BMW will be following Audi and quitting the series at the end of the 2021 season, claiming to have exhausted the opportunities to develop technology within Formula E. Now I wonder if that means we're also going to see them in supercar racing with the new Le Mans cost-effective hypercar rules. Now, Toyota went to great lengths when they launched the Starlet virtually to remind us of the fact that JVs between manufacturers have been happening for a very, very long time. It's commonplace, in fact, and I've got no problem with that. It makes financial sense, but what I'm not used to seeing is what is literally a badge swap. So here you have a 4-year-old Suzuki Baleno that is also the all-new Toyota Starlet. So Suzuki have a Baleno, and now Toyota have their Starlet. Yeah, I know, I'm being rather cheeky, but this car has been on the market for quite a few years. We've all seen it, just never badged as a Toyota. Just a bit of product background. Relationship between Toyota, Suzuki and the manufacturing facility in India saw this being the first Indian manufactured car exported for Suzuki to Japan as a Baleno. A really solid product offering that will replace the Etios in what is a very important market segment here in South Africa, but offer way more modern and sophisticated driving and styling. The Starlet is going to fill more space in the parking lot than the Etios. It is longer and wider with a longer wheelbase, which will benefit rear passenger comfort as well as luggage capacity. And because it sits significantly lower to the ground and has a 50mm lower ground clearance, its proportions just work so much better, giving it a more purposeful stance. For sure, the driving characteristics are going to be improved too. So the Starlet is offered in 3 derivatives, and what you see here is the top spec XR. Let me talk you through a couple of the unique features on this model. So you now get, instead of regular headlights, you get the full LED headlight cluster, and that includes the LED daytime running lights. You also get the fog lights on this top spec. The grille is black on the rest of the lineup, but the XR now brings in some chrome detailing which really finishes off the front end. And the LEDs obviously now give it its own unique light signature. Colored-coded mirrors are standard across the entire range, but what you do get as an addition on the top spec XR is the little indicator they've added here, as well as the chrome door handles. And then if you look at the back, you've got really cool privacy glass for the rear section. But for me, a car has to be running on a cool set of wheels to have genuine street cred. And I love these 16-inch alloys, diamond cut with the two-tone, look really amazing. The entry-level XR comes on 15-inch steels, but these wheels you get from the XS up to the XR. But this for me is where the Starlet really shines. Class-leading boot capacity at 355 litres. That is bigger than Volkswagen's Polo at 351 litres. The boot is really deep, and that of course is helped because you don't have a full-size spare, but a space saver. You'll notice the LED taillights. That is standard across the entire range. But if you do go for the XR, you get the integrated roof spoiler, which I really like. And that chrome detailing you saw in the front is brought through to finish off the rear end of the Starlet. Park distance control, standard in the top spec only, and that also includes a reverse camera. Leather seats are not available in the Starlet lineup. What you do get are electric windows all round, and in the rear is also a 12-volt charger. That's across the entire lineup. You are going to find the headroom, I'm 6 foot, is a little bit tight. Now, unlike the Etios, which is a flat roof box shape, because of the sloping roof line that the Starlet has, it can get a little bit snug up here. But one place that is amazing is your legroom. Incredible. This is my driving position. I sit quite far back, and I've got ample legroom here. That's pretty impressive. Starlet knows my name. I feel like a bit of a Starlet myself. Like, this is obviously the big draw card for the top spec XR, is to have the 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system. Amazing. Obviously the entire range has USB, but now you get smartphone compatibility. So my Apple CarPlay is in there, and that's incredible. Comes with Waze, your navigation. This is a sort of tech that people kind of want in their cars today, just to make it a more livable experience from a day-to-day perspective. The rest of the range comes your standard CD player. You also get USBs, but obviously no connectivity, and there's Bluetooth, so you can pair your phone in that way. There's a 12-volt charge in the front on the entire range and lineup as well. But I think the key thing for me is I really like the interior and the layout of the Starlet. If you think back to Etios, this is like chalk and cheese, miles better. Everything is well integrated. Even the way the screen fits into the air vents and the layout is clean, sophisticated, upmarket. This is good. This 3-spoke leather-covered multifunctional steering wheel is standard across the range, but the cruise control is only available on the top spec XR model. Keyless entry and push to start is also included as part of the XR specification. What you won't find though in the lineup are automatic headlights. The electric windows all round with driver one touch and electric mirrors are standard across the range. The top spec also adds this 4.2-inch color multifunctional information display, modernizing what is a pretty bland instrument cluster. But accessing the information, well, it's not very user-friendly at all. It's via a stalk on the dash and not the multifunction steering wheel. The Starlet is offered with just one engine. That's a 1.4 litre naturally aspirated petrol engine. This is tried and tested technology, been around for a long time, so you really do know what you're getting. But it certainly isn't going to be knocking the lights out on any performance figures with its 68 kilowatts and 130 Newton meters. But if you look at competitors running with similar engines, it's there and thereabouts in the ballpark. As a comparison to the Etios, it's a little bit more powerful kilowatt-wise. Etios, I think, had 66 kilowatts, but it did have a little bit more torque at 132, and that torque was also available a little bit lower down. And if I remember driving the Etios, it felt like I could wring a bit more performance out of that engine. In terms of gearboxes, it comes with a 5-speed manual, or you have the option of a 4-speed automatic. The entry level, the XR, only comes with the manual transmission, and then the options are obviously with the transmissions on XS and the top of the range XR. Would I want to go for the 4-speed auto? Probably not. It's old tech, and I think you're going to really be hunting for gears because you don't have much performance from this engine. So the manual route is the way to go, and even here, climbing up the hill, I am working my way through the gearbox. But having said that, the gearbox has a good feel to it. What is important though is that this was built on an all-new platform, which was not only lighter but also a lot more flexible, so that improves the ride quality quite significantly. But what I also appreciate is when you're looking at power to weight ratio, the fact that this car comes with a curb weight of just under 900, the Auto's pushing it just over 900, it does help the performance power to weight ratio aspect of the Starlet. Being comfortable behind the wheel is crucial for me. The entire range has height adjustable seats, but when you get into the top spec XR, the steering wheel is height and reach adjustable, and you also get this nice little armrest. I mean, it's little things like that that make a difference for me, and I really enjoy. The range comes standard with 2 airbags. It's got ABS, it's got brake force distribution and brake assistance, and when you get into the top spec XR, the airbags are bumped up quite significantly to 6, which is crucial. But I think what is great when you are selling this vehicle is the fact that it comes with a 3-star Euro NCAP rating, and more importantly, the entire range is offered with vehicle stability control. That for me should be a non-negotiable. Any car sold in South Africa should come with that. So that's a nice added value on the entire Starlet range. Interesting enough, if I feel like hitching a trailer, I can fit a tow bar on the Starlet. It's got a 1,000 kilogram brake towing capacity, 400 kilograms unbraked. So yeah, it might be a nice to have. I just look at it from a power delivery and performance perspective. I'm not sure if I want to be dragging any extra weight along in my Starlet. So let's sum up the Starlet. The ride is a little on the soft side. You've got your pretty standard McPherson front setup with a torsion beam in the rear. And the steering is also a little bit vague, but listen, you're only really going to feel that when you're pitching it through the twisties like we were doing. This is not a pocket rocket, so the more comfortable, compliant setup really works well in this application. How it looks, the interior layout, the quality and the finish of the materials, and the insulation of the cabin means the Starlet is streets ahead of the Etios. But it is not a new car. It's been around since 2016. And when you stack it up against competitors like the Volkswagen Polo, the Kia Rio, it is kind of starting to show its age. You don't have small capacity turbos, and that automatic transmission is really old school. So it may well be a formal alliance between Toyota and Suzuki globally, but in our market, the gloves are off, with Toyota strategically pricing their rebadged Baleno Starlet to undercut Suzuki. But Toyota cannot match them when it comes to service plans and warranties. The question for me though, is the auto option and the 16-inch alloys enough to warrant the XS derivative? I don't really think so, but I understand that this is a price war to bring that automatic in at a good price point. What I would do is I would offer the 16-inch alloys as an optional extra on the entry-level XR range. But Toyota really does need an offering like this in the marketplace. And I think with the brand's reputation and the dealer network, this is going to be a sales Starlet. Now, as I said on my social media platforms, this is going to be a very interesting social study in blind brand loyalty, because with a Toyota badge, it is going to sell. Sticking with the controversial, it is great to have Howard Dembovsky joining us on Motor Driven to help us wade through the crap that is AARTO. It's a pretty good introduction, eh?
It's a fantastic introduction, because crap is the best way to describe it, and it's also a 4-letter acronym. And what does the 4-letter acronym of AARTO mean? Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences. Doesn't that sound impressive to you?
It does sound like a power struggle, and it has been a struggle, because being in the industry, I don't even know where are we in the AARTO demerit point system, because 4 or 5 years ago it was being trialled, it was happening, police were pulling us over, traffic cops saying, oh, that's it, you're losing points. Is it happening? Where are we?
Well, the fact is that the Minister of Transport published regulations for public comment, which is now closed because the commenting period closed on the 1st of December. And it is now proposed that the points demerit system will come into force on the 1st of July 2021. So D-Day is fast approaching, if this time the wolf can actually be seen at the door.
Okay, now what I want to try and understand, this is the holiday time period. People are going from Gauteng down to the Western Cape. I want to put that in the scope of how AARTO is going to change that. Are the rules and regulations currently, as it is in Johannesburg, to Pretoria, to the Western Cape, Eastern Cape, are they all the same, or do they have a different set of rules currently?
The National Road Traffic Act applies nationally, that's, as the name implies. However, the way that you are prosecuted is different in the Western Cape, and in fact, anywhere outside of Joburg and Tshwane, because that's where the AARTO Act has applied now for the past 12 years, going on 13 years.
So what is AARTO going to change then? Will that make it a central prosecution process? The rules and regulations will be administered nationally?
Centrally. Correct.
Okay. But is that not a good thing?
Well, it actually sounds like it, but there's a few disadvantages to it, insofar as I think that the word administrative is incorrect. It should be the automated advancement of Road Traffic Offences Act, because that's what it is. If you fail to act in terms of the AARTO Act as a person who's been alleged to have committed a road traffic infringement, then you will automatically have demerit points applied to your driving license, and you'll have your driving license card, your vehicle license disc, and your professional driving permit blocked for renewal until such time as you pay Caesar what is due unto Caesar.
Now, what I've noticed, some areas do seem to work better, because I know that that would happen. If you've got outstanding fines when you go to relicense your vehicle, you won't be able to until you pay that. That sort of process is working.
And you think that's good?
No, I get it, but I mean, there is a point of saying, oh, you've got fines, because a lot of the time I've never received a fine. I don't know that I've even got it. Now you go on to pay my fine or whatever it might be, and you're surprised by all these things. So there's a lot of confusion around that. What is your perfect way in terms of how this process should be managed from offence to end user?
Well, quite frankly, I find this idea of blocking your license disc and your driving license renewal as being obscene, to be very honest with you, because if a traffic officer alleges that I have done something, it's for that traffic officer to prove it, not for me to prove I haven't. Yeah. Okay. But that's my fundamental thinking on this. Unfortunately, the vast majority of traffic fines in this country originate out of speed cameras, and you know, I've often quipped that you can actually drive blind drunk on the wrong side of the road on the pavement,
and you'll be okay.
As long as you do it within the speed limit, you're not going to be taken to task. And unfortunately, that's a sad reality, because for some obscure reason, we are fixated on this idea of speed. Now, let me ask you a very simple question. What do you regard as more dangerous? Driving at 30 kilometers an hour past a school at opening or closing time, or driving at 180 kilometers an hour on a 5-lane freeway with everyone going in the same direction at 4 o'clock on a Sunday morning when the sun has just risen?
Look, you and I can sit and talk about this forever, because I've got no issue with speed. And I mean, I take massive offense to this whole idea that speed kills, and they use that as a scapegoat because it's a great money generator. My concern is more about the road safety side of things. I am really worried that with AARTO and the demerit system being put into place, that certain offences are going to be targeted because they're easy. And my concern is that it becomes another opportunity for pie and coke, please sir, because I know when they were trialing it, a lot of cops, I was pulled over 2 or 3 times and they were telling me, you're talking on your phone. This was like 2015 or whatever it might have been, talking on the phone. Oh, that's a fine, and I'm docking you so many points. I'm going, no, you can't. Is that the reality?
Look, the reality is that less than 10% of all traffic law enforcement in South Africa is physical. So the chances of being pulled over by a traffic cop is actually quite low, to be very honest with you. But even in those situations, yes, it's going to be a massive incentive for bribery and corruption, because you can imagine now, if you happen to know that you are sitting on 13 demerit points and the tolerance is 15, and you're now going to incur another 5 demerit points. And you know that if you now go to 18 demerit points, your driving license is going to be suspended for 9 months. So
Wow.
you may as well go and make babies, but because
Yeah.
you're not going to be allowed to drive. But the problem comes with the enforcement of that, because I've just said to you that less than 10% of the enforcement in South Africa is physical. So when last have you presented your driving license to a traffic officer, and that traffic officer has gone and checked it on Etios to see if it's not suspended?
Yeah.
So, you know, how's the points demerit system going to help in South Africa? I believe it's not, to be very honest with you.
We're opening up a can of worms here, because the backbone of AARTO, as I understand it, should be in Etios. In terms of the system,
Yes.
cars,
Yes.
but in Etios is a mess.
Well, Etios is not so much a mess as traffic cops don't have access to it. Okay. Traffic cops are sent out on patrol or sent out to do their duties without the fundamentals of two-way radios.
Yeah.
And they have to use their own personal cell phones. So what makes us think for,
How are
for
you
2
empowering
seconds,
them?
for 2 seconds that they're going to be able to check a driving license card that's presented to them to see if it's, number one, a genuine driving license or not, and number two, whether it's been suspended or not. And that's where this system is inherently flawed. Now, anybody who argues that the AARTO Act is there to enhance road safety doesn't know what the meaning of the term road safety is, because the fact is that it is there to drive traffic fine revenues. And let me give you a shocker. Inbuilt into the draft regulations is an altogether new charge code. Okay, 2 of them in fact. Charges 4321 and 4322, which says drove a motor vehicle on an E-road without paying the toll. In other words, ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls, you are going to be forced to pay e-tolls under threat of not being able to renew your vehicle license disc and your driving license card, and at a fine of $500 for each gantry that you travel under. So in other words, on my little trip to your studios today, guess what, sunshine? I have earned myself, because there were 4 gantries in each direction, I have earned myself $4,000 worth of fines if AARTO was enforced today.
It was worth it though.
Absolutely. And you know what? You can withhold my license disc as much as you want and my driving license card, because I will continue to pay my license fees and just get a receipt without a license disc, and I will continue to drive, because in terms of the National Road Traffic Act, my driving license is valid and for an indefinite period until it is suspended or cancelled. And guess what? In terms of e-toll violations, there are no demerit points applicable. So issue your enforcement order so I can't renew my driving license card or my vehicle license disc, and then you know, what are you going to do? I'm not going to pay your fine, and you can issue another enforcement order and another one and another one and another one, but I will continue to pay my licensing fees for my vehicle, because not licensing a vehicle is an offense. Okay? And I will not let you suspend my driving license because I actually obey the rules of the road.
You're messing with my head here, because you're talking about e-tolls. I thought that was dead and buried.
Well, President Ramaphosa told Minister Veerfokol to come up with a solution and present it to Cabinet by no later than the 31st of August 2019. But here we sit at the end of 2020, no such solution, and there it appears in the draft regulations, hey, we are not scrapping e-tolls, and don't expect the minibus taxi drivers to blockade the freeways and all that. Guess why? Because they are exempt from paying e-tolls. So you're on your own.
So that's
it's
problem
time
solved.
you've got militant okies. You know what? At the end of the day, they want to force the payment of e-tolls. But this could have a backfire of absolute epic proportion, because there are people, and there are a lot of them, who are going to say, if you're not going to give me my license disc, I'm not going to give you my vehicle licensing fees. And then let's see how happy the local authorities are when they no longer get license taxes from people. And you say it's an offense, you're correct, you can get locked up for it. But our current present population isn't anywhere near 500,000. There are 2.5 million people who are not paying e-tolls.
Yeah.
Where are you going to build more prisons?
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to do?
I mean, this sounds like what they're trying to do with the SABC at the moment. You know, going to people like Netflix and saying your TV license has to be paid through Netflix and you have to collect it for us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's
No,
mind-blowing.
look, it's just totally ridiculous. And unfortunately, what's happened here is that I have no issue whatsoever with a points demerit system. I think it's a fantastic idea. Quite frankly,
Yeah.
I would like to see a lot of the douchebags that are on our road prohibited from driving. I really would. Okay, but this whole administrative process, you know, it's absolutely ridiculous. Do you know what rigmarole you've got to go through if they misread your number plate in one of these speeding fines? And incidentally, that's another blooming point.
That's,
okay?
you mentioned that to me when we were chatting off air earlier.
Yeah.
So easy with the font.
With that font, you can confuse the letter K and X and Y and V and scores of other letters. Okay, and it happens regularly. I know because I get phone calls from people saying, "I've got a red Mini. The vehicle in the photograph is an 18-wheeler white truck."
Yeah.
Okay.
With my plates.
And of course, the incredibly intelligent traffic officer who's capturing this can't tell the difference between a red Mini and a white truck.
Yeah.
But then again, why should we expect him to when he couldn't tell the difference between a 125cc Yamaha motorcycle and a black Audi A3,
Yeah.
like happened to me personally?
Seriously.
So I know this is not bull.
Yeah.
Okay, it arrived in the post. Look, I made the representation saying this is not my vehicle.
But what was that process like? Because that, I imagine, is not going to be easy.
Well, it's an administrative process that I believe certain people are going to be able to follow because they've got access to the internet and they might take the initiative to educate themselves. But let me be very frank about South Africans in general. They don't educate themselves.
No.
They get a traffic fine, they look at this and they say, "That's not even my blooming vehicle." They
Gooi
chuck it
weg.
in the bin,
Yeah.
okay? And the next thing they do is they go to license their vehicle, and lo and behold, an enforcement order has been issued on that fine that wasn't even for your vehicle. And you've got to say to yourself, or sorry, our authorities are saying to us, this is a just system. And the courts actually say, yes, it's just, it's cool.
Yeah, but you see, it sounds like the perfect storm, because for anything like this to work, you've got to have the admin working efficiently. And
Yes.
I just look at what we went through now with COVID. You
Yes.
know, that process should all be living online at the moment. It should make our life so much easier. There should not be that admin. When I go to the post office to pay a license fee, some take cash, some don't. I mean, you never know what the story is. Now, that is the problem. If that admin side of it isn't going to work, then as beautiful as a demerit system is, it's going to fall flat.
Well, the demerit system is actually not so much the online thing. The administrative system.
But that process.
Okay, that administrative process is online. Okay, I can tell you now it is online. I use it in my capacity as a proxy for a bank. Okay, however, I am not average Joe Soap.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, this is your life.
I know this legislation. I know how to act in terms of it. I know not to rely on the South African Post Office. I know not to rely on email because we have junk filters and emails end up in your junk mailbox. Okay, I go and check physically, and I suggest everybody else does that. But here's a ridiculous thing about this. You as a motorist, if you allow a person who's unlicensed to drive your vehicle, you also get arrested. Okay, however, The AARTO Act makes no provision whatsoever for a private individual to check if that person's driving license has been suspended or whether they are properly licensed.
So I'm owning a business, I'll ask you.
No, if you're a business, then you have to get the permission of your employee to go and check.
Okay.
Okay. However, if you're a private individual,
how easy is that process
and you
to
let your
check?
friend who came in from overseas drive your motor vehicle, okay, you're screwed. You are screwed. Or even your friend who came in from Palabora or Tabazimbi or wherever this person came from.
And he has a car, use it for the weekend.
Yeah, use my car over the weekend. Hey, you my buddy, my pal. Meanwhile, this oak's got his driving license suspended,
but at the end of the day, it's not,
and you facilitated him driving your motor vehicle. Off to jail, get a criminal record. There you go. And we will not give you any facility to check if that person is actually licensed.
I mean, that's like saying a service plan on a car is linked to the person who owns it and not the car.
Exactly.
You know, at the end of the day,
exactly.
It's your license. And what happens in a rental car? I mean, isn't that the argument then? Because
well, with rental cars, you have to present your driving license.
Sure, but I mean, but they also can't check then.
They can't check.
So it's no different. So it's no different.
It's no different.
Wow.
And this is the ridiculousness. And quite frankly, I've been told. But you can make a PIA application. Does anybody have any concept of how long it takes to get a result from a PIA application? When I want to lend you my car, when I want to lend you, it's a promotion of Access to Information Act application. The state authorities have 30 days to come back to you. When I want to lend you my car to drive down to the shops,
no,
I don't want to know in 30 days' time if I can do it or not. I want to know now. So, you know, it's all very, very heavily stacked against the motorist. But there's another piece of misinformation that's been doing the rounds, and it's originated from our authorities. And that is that I don't know if you've heard about this zero alcohol limit. Now, Fikile Mbalula has said that this is contained in the AARTO Act. It is not contained in the AARTO Act. It is contained in the National Road Traffic Amendment Bill. Okay.
Which hasn't been passed.
Which, thus far, hasn't been passed. Okay. However, let's say that it does get passed. That is a criminal offence. You will be prosecuted criminally for it. And it's easy to turn around and say, oh, but I don't drink alcohol, because I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. But there are certain people who, for various reasons, may have a health condition that cause a reading of alcohol. This is not going to improve the situation as far as drink driving goes. And let me tell you why. Because the courts will still not convict a person unless the prosecution provides prosecutable forensic evidence that there was alcohol in that person's bloodstream. The reason why convictions fail at the moment is because that evidence is not provided to the courts. It's going to make that difference to it.
But you know the problem for me, Howard, I mean, just to wrap up, because we could do this for days probably, and I think we're going to. My concern is that it's always confusing, because I hear that zero tolerance.
You know what? I like it. I like it, because if you tell a person you can't drink and drive, it's cool. Rather than telling a person, well, you can drink a bit, or so long as you don't overdo it, and as long as you're not completely puchheid.
But the confusion is some people think that's been passed, and that's what ends up happening when they get pulled over. The police officer saying, "Oh, zero tolerance."
Correct.
So some places like Durban is zero tolerance.
No, it can't be. So
but, but that's but you see the confusion.
You see, the National Road Traffic Act applies nationally, and people need to understand this. Okay, Durban, KwaZulu-Natal's been talking about zero tolerance now for donkey's decades. Okay, and in those donkey's decades, they have consistently had the highest road death statistics in the country. So you know what? Zero tolerance doesn't work. What works is creating well-educated, well-skilled drivers behind the wheels of these motor vehicles and making sure that they're sober. That's it.
Agreed. What I want to do, like I said, we're definitely going to get you back, Howard. I think it'll be great to have you on Motor Driven as a regular feature. I
Great
think any
stuff.
of you that have questions or any info you want around AARTO, we'll make sure Howard's information is available. Not his cell phone number, but places
No.
where people can go and access that information, please, if you don't mind.
Sure.
That's it for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it super informative. I know I certainly learned a thing or two. But this is what you can look forward to next week. Coming up on next week's show, we bring you all the action behind the scenes and on track from the final round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge, the Kyalami 9 Hour. And we start our 3-car Aston Martin garage tour with the Vantage.